parents spent college fund on themselves, put myself through school, and now make more than both combined. My dad slams his palm on the kitchen table so hard the salt shaker jumps, and the sound cracks through me like a starting gun. "You don't get to come in here and accuse us," he says, face red, vein in his neck bulging, like I'm the one who emptied the account. My mom is standing by the sink with a dish towel twisted in her fists, eyes shiny, shaking her head over and over like she can physically erase what I'm holding. I'm gripping a printed statement so tightly the paper is creased along my thumb, and my hands are trembling in a way I hate because it makes me feel 12 again. The statement has their names on it. It has the account number. It has the withdrawals. It has the stupid little description line that says home improvement, debit, and luxury travel. It seems like the bank is politely narrating my entire childhood lie. I hear my own voice coming out too loud, too sharp, because my chest is full and there isn't space for it. "You told me it was there," I say, and I can't stop the way my words shake. "You told me every time I panicked about tuition. You told me, 'Don't worry, we've got your college fund.'" My dad points at the paper like it's fake, like I forged it. "That's not what that is," he snaps. "You don't understand what you're looking at." I take a step forward without meaning to, and Mark, my boyfriend, who has been silent by the doorway like a witness, shifts closer, not grabbing me, just ready in case my dad does something stupid. My mom finally speaks, and her voice is this thin little thread. "Sweetheart, please, not like this." And I look at her, and it hits me, the weirdest part. She's not shocked I found out. She's shocked I'm saying it out loud. It was a Tuesday night when I finally understood that the college fund my parents talked about wasn't just empty. It had been spent like it was never mine in the first place. I didn't go digging because I'm paranoid or because I wanted revenge. I went digging because my dad called me 3 times in one day while I was in back-to-back meetings at work and left a voicemail that started with, "Don't freak out," which in my family is code for "we've done something and we need you to clean it up." For context, I'm 29 now. I moved out at 18, went away to school with this knot of anxiety that sat under my ribs like a second heartbeat, and I never really loosened it until a few years ago. When people asked how I put myself through school, I can rattle it off like a resume bullet list because I've had to justify it so many times. Scholarships, grants, work study, 2 part-time jobs, summer jobs, and a student loan that made my stomach turn every time I opened the portal. I lived with 3 roommates in a place that smelled like old carpet and burnt microwave popcorn. I learned which grocery store had the cheapest eggs and which week the ramen went on sale. I skipped outings. I pretended I didn't care when friends went on spring break. I worked in the campus library shelving books until my wrists ached and then drove to a diner to wait tables until midnight. If I sound bitter, it's because I am, and I'm tired of pretending that bitterness isn't earned. My parents, though? My parents love the story of my independence. They tell relatives, "Oh, she's so driven. She's paying her way. We're so proud." They post on Facebook about how hard work builds character. They'd never mention the part where, on the phone, my mom would say, "We'd help more, but you know how tight things are," while standing in a kitchen with granite countertops they didn't have when I was growing up. The college fund was always this mythical thing they dangled like a promise. When I was 16 and stressed about applying schools, my dad said, "Don't choose based on money. We planned ahead." When I was a senior in high school and panicking over financial aid forms, my mom said, "Relax. Your fund will cover the gap." When I called them during my first year because my bursar account had a hold and I couldn't register for next semester, my dad snapped, "We're not made of money, but we're not letting you fail. That's why we saved." Do you know what that does to you? It makes you think the panic is temporary. It makes you believe that if you can just survive this semester, the fund will kick in, the transfer will happen, the pressure will ease. It keeps you running on fumes because you think there's a gas station up ahead. Except there wasn't. There never was. The first crack happened my sophomore year. Tuition increased by a few thousand. Nothing dramatic, just enough to turn my carefully balanced spreadsheet into a joke. I called my parents in tears, and my mom said, "We'll see what we can do." That was new language. See what we can do. When I asked about the fund, she got weird. "It's invested," she said quickly, like she'd rehearsed it. "We can't just pull it whenever. There are rules." I didn't know enough then to challenge it. I was 19, exhausted, stressed, still trying to be the good daughter who didn't ask for too much. So I took an extra shift at the diner and applied for another scholarship and told myself it would be fine. Junior year, I got a call from my dad. "You need to stop acting like we're your personal ATM," he barked because I had asked if they could help with textbooks. Textbooks, he said. When we were your age, we worked. I remember standing in a campus stairwell holding the phone and feeling my face go hot with humiliation even though nobody was there. I remember saying, "I thought," you said, and he cut me off. "We said we'd help where we could. We didn't say we'd pay for everything." He said like I was greedy. Like I'd asked for a yacht, not a used biology textbook with someone else's highlighting in it. After that, I stopped asking. Not because I didn't need help, but because something in me snapped into this cold determination. Fine, I'll do it. I'll carry it. I'll stop expecting anything from you. And I did. I graduated. It wasn't cinematic. There was no big family moment where my parents wept and realized their daughter had become a woman. There was a ceremony, and I wore a gown that smelled like plastic, and my shoes pinched, and my mom took pictures, and my dad clapped like he was applauding a play he didn't fully enjoy. They hugged me, told me they were proud, and my dad said, "See? Hard work." And I smiled because I didn't have the words then to say, "Hard work wouldn't have been this hard if you hadn't lied to me for years." After graduation, I worked my way up. Again, not in some magical montage. More like in a series of exhausting decisions where I kept taking the job with more responsibility because I needed the salary bump to get out from under the loan. I started in a junior role in operations at a mid-sized company. I was the one who stayed late to fix things that weren't technically my job because I couldn't stand the chaos. I learned software I wasn't paid to learn. I made myself useful until I was unavoidable. Within 4 years, I was a manager. 2 years later, I moved to a bigger company. Then another. I became the person people called when projects were on fire and nobody knew why. And now, yes, I make more than both my parents combined. I say that plainly because it's the core of why they called me. My parents have always been very sensitive about money when it comes to pride. They hated being helped. They loved being admired. They wanted to look comfortable without ever feeling exposed. Which brings me back to the voicemail. "Don't freak out," my dad said. "But we need to talk. We might need a little help. Just temporarily. It's a misunderstanding with the bank." I called him back, and he didn't answer. Mom answered instead, and she was too cheerful. "Iune, how are you? How's work?" Like she hadn't just received a financial grenade. When I asked what was going on, she said, "It's nothing. Just grown-up stuff. Your dad is stressed." I said, "Mom, what do you need?" There was a pause. Then she said, "We might need you to co-sign something. Just until it's sorted." A co-sign. My stomach went cold. My parents were the kind of people who acted like co-signing was a moral failure unless it benefited them. The kind of people who'd lecture me about credit scores like they were sacred. I said, "What are you trying to co-sign?" Mom said, "It's complicated." That's when I started to panic. Not just about the co-sign, but about what else I didn't know. So I did something I'd never done before. I looked. I opened my laptop and searched through my emails for anything related to fund, college, 529 account. Nothing. Because of course my parents had never actually involved me in it. Then I remembered something. When I was 17, my dad took me to meet the financial guy. It was this suit in a small office who shook my hand and told my parents they were doing a great job. My dad said, "We want her to hear it. We want her to know we're investing in her." I remembered the name on the business card. I remembered it because I'd stuck it in a folder with my college applications. I dug the folder out. The card was still there, faded but readable. I Googled the guy, found his firm, and called. I didn't even have a plan. I just said, "Hi, I'm trying to locate information about an account my parents set up for me when I was a minor. I'm the beneficiary." I expected to be told, "We can't discuss that." I expected to be shut down. Instead, the receptionist put me on hold, then transferred me to a junior advisor who sounded nervous. He asked my name. I gave it. He asked my parents' names. I gave those too. He went quiet for a moment, typing. Then he said, carefully, "I see a record, but the account is closed." My heart started pounding so loud I could hear in my ears. "Closed," I said. "When?" He paused again. It appears it was closed about 7 years ago. 7 years ago. I did the math automatically. 7 years ago, I was in college. 7 years ago, I was working myself sick. 7 years ago, I was eating instant noodles for dinner and telling myself it was temporary. I said, how much was in it? He hesitated. I can't, he started. I'm the beneficiary, I said, and my voice shook. I need to know if it existed. I need to know if it was ever meant for me. Another pause. Then he said, it was a significant amount. How much? I pushed. Approximately $85,000, he said. My vision went blurry. I gripped the edge of my desk, so hard my fingers hurt. $85,000. That's not a full ride at some private university, but it's not nothing. It's years of tuition. It's textbooks. It's the difference between taking out loans and not. It's the difference between working 2 jobs and maybe 1. It's the difference between being able to breathe and not. I asked, where did it go? He cleared his throat. It was withdrawn by the account owners. The account owners. My parents. He offered to email me an official statement confirming closure and dates, which already told me he knew this was ugly. When it came through, there was in plain, polite language. Closed. Withdrawals. Dates. And when I looked at the dates, I recognized them. Not from tuition bills, but from my parents' life changes. The year they renovated the kitchen. The year they replaced their car. The year they went on that anniversary trip they posted about endlessly, the one where my mom wrote captions about finally enjoying life. I sat there for a long time, staring at my screen, like if I stared hard enough the words would rearrange into something kinder. Then I drove to their house, which is why I'm standing in their kitchen on a Tuesday night, holding printed proof, while my dad yells like volume can turn facts into lies. What did you spend it on? I ask, and I hate how calm my voice goes. It's like my body is protecting me by turning my emotions into ice. What was more important than my education? My dad points at me, fingers shaking. We spent it on this family, he says. We kept a roof over your head. We fed you. We paid for. I live in your house like a child you chose to have. I cut in. That wasn't a loan I took from you. That was your responsibility. Mom makes it sound like she's about to cry. We didn't think you'd need it, she blurts, and then immediately looks horrified like she didn't mean to say it that way. I blink. What? She rushes on, words tumbling. You were so smart. You always got good grades. We thought you'd get scholarships. And you did. You did. So it worked out. It worked out. I repeat, slowly, because if I speak too fast, I'll scream. It worked out for who? My dad snaps. Don't be dramatic. You graduated. You're fine. I feel something hot surge on my throat. Fine. I say. I had panic attacks in the bathroom at the diner because I didn't know how I was going to pay next semester. I skipped medical appointments because I couldn't afford the copay. I slept 4 hours a night for 2 years. I still have debt. My mom whispers, we were going to pay you back. When? I ask, turning to her. When I asked. When I cried. When I was 19 and begging you to transfer money for tuition, and you told me it was invested and not accessible? She can't meet my eyes. That's the answer. My dad's voice drops into this cold, patronizing tone I recognize from every time he's tried to win an argument by acting like I'm a child. You don't understand adult finances, he says. That money was ours. We saved it. We put it away. We decided. It was meant for me. I say, and my voice breaks on the last word. You told me it was for me. You used it to control me. You used it to keep me calm while you emptied it. Mark shifts behind me. Maybe we should go, he murmurs, but my feet feel rooted. Dad looks past me to Mark like he's just remembered there's an audience. This is family business, he snaps. Mark's face is tight. She's my family, he says, and it's so simple, so solid, it makes my chest ache. My mom finally starts crying for real, but it's not the kind of crying that moves me. It's the kind where she's mourning her comfort, her narrative, the story where they were good parents who sacrificed. We didn't think you'd be so ungrateful, she says, wiping her cheeks with a dish towel. We gave you everything, except the thing you promised, I say quietly. That's when my dad says the line that changes everything. He throws his hands up and says, you want the truth? We needed it. We deserved it. We spent years raising you. We never got to live. That kitchen renovation, that was for us. That trip, that was for us. We were tired of putting everything into you. For a second, it's like the room goes silent except for the hum of the fridge. My stomach drops in a slow, sick way. Because there it is. Not an accident. Not a misunderstanding. A belief. They believed they were entitled to it because they were tired. I stare at him. You spent my future because you wanted granite countertops. I say, and my voice is almost calm again, which scares me. Dad glares. Don't twist it. I'm not twisting anything. I say, you said you deserved it. And you let me work myself into the ground believing you'd help. Mom sniffles and says, but look at you now. You're successful. It made you stronger. I actually laugh. One short, sharp sound that surprises all of us. You don't get to take credit for my survival, I say. You don't get to turn your betrayal into a motivational speech. Dad jabs a finger at me again. So what? You're going to punish us? You're going to cut us off? After everything. My phone buzzes in my pocket. I don't even need to look to know what's coming because my mom's words about co-signing are suddenly loud in my head. They didn't call me because they wanted to confess. They called because they needed something. I pull out my phone and check the missed calls from earlier. There are 3 from a number I don't recognize and a text from my mom that says, please answer. It's urgent. I look up. What do you need me to co-sign? I ask. Mom flinches. Dad's eyes shift away. That's all I need. I say, tell me. Dad says, it's just a loan. Short term. For what? I press. Mom whispers the credit cards got high. And the bank. She stops, like if she doesn't finish the sentence it won't be real. I take a breath that feels like swallowing glass. So you spent the college fund, I say, voice steady. And now you want to take on your debt. Dad snaps. We're not asking you to pay it. Just help. You make good money. You can handle it. There's a moment where I feel my old self tugging at me. The good daughter. The peacekeeper. The one who believes that if I just do the right thing, they'll finally treat me right. Then I look at the statement in my hand again. $85,000. Closed. Withdrawn. And something inside me goes quiet and firm. No, I say. Mom's head jerks up. No, I'm not co-signing anything. I say, and I'm surprised by how calm I sound. I'm not giving you money, and I'm not letting you spin this into me being cruel. Dad's face turns a shade darker. So you just want to let your parents drown? You're not drowning, I say. You're dealing with consequences. Mom's voice rises, panic now. We're your parents. We. And you were supposed to protect me. I cut in. You were supposed to keep your promises. Dad slams his hand on the table again. You're acting like we stole from you, he roars. I hold the statement up between us like a shield. You did, I say, and my voice finally shakes with anger. You stole from me. Mom sobs. Dad looks like he might explode. Mark steps closer, not threatening, just present. We're leaving, he says quietly. I nod, and it feels like choosing oxygen. I grab my bag, my keys, and I walk out of the kitchen while my mom cries and my dad shouts after me, don't you dare walk away from me. I do. I walk anyway. In the car, my hands shake on the steering wheel. Mark sits beside me, his jaw clenched. I don't cry right away. I just sit there in the driveway, staring at their front door like it might open and someone might come out and say, wait, this is a misunderstanding. We were holding it for you. We were wrong. Something that would make it less rotten. No one comes. The next few weeks are ugly. They send texts in waves, rage, guilt, sweetness, rage again. My mom tries the soft approach. I'm sorry you feel hurt. My dad tries intimidation. Don't forget who raised you. Then he tries shame. Your mother hasn't slept. Then he tries bargaining. We can work something out. My sister, Kara, calls me and says, what happened? Because of course they're telling the story to everyone except the part where they emptied the fund. When I tell Kara, there's a long silence on the phone. Then she says, I knew it, in a voice so small it makes my stomach twist. What? I ask. She exhales. They said the same thing about mine, she whispers. But I never went. I stayed local. I commuted. I thought it was because, money. She laughs once bitter. I guess it was. That's when the anger shifts into something heavier. It wasn't just me. It was a pattern. A habit. A entitlement that didn't stop because I worked harder. Then the extended family starts chiming in, like they always do, with their opinions that cost them nothing. My aunt calls and says, they're old school. Money is complicated. Family is more important. A cousin messages, you only get one set of parents. Someone says, but they're proud of you. As if pride is a currency that pays off my loans. The worst part is that my parents keep telling people a version where they helped as much as they could, and I'm punishing them now that I'm rich. My dad tells my uncle I'm being ungrateful and cold. My mom tells friends I'm stressed from work and taking it out on them. They can't even fully admit what they did, not because they're unaware, but because their identities can't survive it. So I stop engaging. I stop arguing. I stop writing paragraphs, trying to make them understand. I don't show up to Sunday dinner. I don't answer calls that start with "we need to talk." I keep my boundaries simple. I'm not giving you money, and I'm not pretending this didn't happen. 2 months later, my dad calls from an unknown number, which is the kind of thing people do when they know you've stopped picking up. I answer because I'm at work, and I assume it's someone important. His voice hits my ear like a slap. You need to come down to the bank, he says. My stomach flips. What? They're being ridiculous, he snaps. They're asking questions. They want documents. I told them you'd help straighten it out. I'm not involved, I say, and my voice is flat. He goes silent for half a second, like he's recalculating. Then he says, if you don't help, we could lose the house. There it is. The hook. The catastrophe that's supposed to override everything. I feel my heart pounding, but my brain is weirdly calm. Did you take out loans against the house? I ask. Just a line of credit, he snaps. For what? I press, even though I already know the answer is going to make me sick. He huffs, irritated, like I'm wasting time. To cover things. Things, I repeat. You know, he says, impatient. Life. I close my eyes. I can see the granite countertop. I can see the vacation photos. I can see my mom's new furniture. I can see my dad's new tools. I can see every "we deserve it" in physical form. I'm not coming, I say. His voice rises. So you'll just let us lose everything? I open my eyes and stare at my laptop screen, at the calendar full of meetings, at the life I built with my own hands. Dad, I say, and my voice is quiet but firm. You already let me lose everything I was promised. You just didn't care because it didn't happen to you. He makes a strangled sound, like anger and disbelief mixed together. You're heartless, he spits. No, I say. I'm done. Then I hang up. After that, something shifts again. Not in them. My parents don't suddenly become accountable, but in me. The guilt starts to fade, replaced by this steady clarity. I start therapy, partly because my chest feels tight all the time and I'm tired of carrying it alone. The therapist doesn't gasp dramatically or tell me what to do like it's a movie. She just listens, then says, it's okay to grieve parents you didn't get. And I sit there and cry, not because of the money, but because of the betrayal that money represents. Meanwhile, my life keeps moving. Work is demanding. I get promoted again. I sign a new offer with a salary that still makes me feel like I'm reading someone else's number. Mark, and I move into a better place. Not because we're trying to show off, but because I'm finally letting myself enjoy what I built without feeling like I have to apologize for it. My mom hears about the promotion from someone, of course. She texts, "Congrats, honey. So proud of you." As if pride is enough to bridge the canyon. I don't respond. Not immediately. Not because I'm trying to punish her, but because I can't do the performance anymore. I can't play happy family while pretending the foundation isn't rotten. A few weeks later, Kara invites me to coffee. She looks exhausted, like she's been holding her own anger inside a jar, so long it's fermenting. We sit in a corner booth, and she says, they asked me for money too. I laugh, but it's humorless. Of course they did. They said you turned your back, she says, and her eyes flash. They said you think you're too good now. I sip my coffee slowly. What did you say? Kara's mouth tightens. I said I didn't know the full story. And now you do, I say. She nods. And now I'm mad. I look at my sister and feel something soften. Because at least someone else sees it. At least someone else is stepping out of the fog. Kara leans forward. Do you feel guilty? She asks. I stare at the table for a second, tracing the grain with my fingertip. Sometimes I admit, because they trained us to. They trained us to think their feelings are emergencies. Cara excites. Yeah, she says quietly. They did. That coffee doesn't fix anything, but it gives me something I didn't have before, a witness inside my family who isn't invested in denying reality. Months pass. My parents' financial situation doesn't magically improve. They don't lose the house, at least not then. They scramble. They rearrange. They borrow from other places. They complain to relatives. They blame me. They blame the economy. They blame everything except themselves. And then, at a family gathering, one I attend because it's my grandmother's birthday and I refuse to let my parents gatekeep relationships, I have a moment that feels both small and enormous. My dad corners me near the backyard, away from everyone, like he's trying to regain control in private. He looks older than I remember. Not fragile, not helpless, just worn. His pride has cracks. You really don't care, do you? He says, voice low. I look at him. At the man who promised me security and then spent it on himself. At the man who watched me struggle and called it character building. My throat tightens, but I keep my voice calm. I care, I say. I just don't trust you. His face hardens. We're your parents. And you use that to take, I say simply. He opens his mouth like he's going to argue, then closes it. For a second, there's something like shame flickering behind his eyes. Then it's gone, replaced by defensiveness. You're making this into a bigger thing than it was, he mutters. I nod slowly. It was my future, I say. So it's big. Then I walk away and rejoin the party. Later, my grandmother hugs me and whispers, You look well, sweetheart. Her voice is warm, uncomplicated. No strings, no guilt. I drive home that night with Mark's hand on my knee, and I realize something that's both painful and relieving. My parents may never apologize in the way I deserve. They may never admit it cleanly. They may always frame themselves as victims. And I can either keep begging them to become people they aren't, or I can accept the truth and build my life around it. So I do. I build. I keep my finances separate. I keep my boundaries firm. I stop explaining myself to people who benefit from misunderstanding me. I show up for my sister. I show up for myself. And yes, this part still makes my stomach twist with the weirdness of it. I make more than both my parents combined now. Not because I proved them wrong in some triumphant way, but because I had to, because the safety net they promised was always a lie, and the only person who ever showed up consistently for my future was me. Sometimes I look at my student loan balance and feel anger spark again. Sometimes I see granite countertops in a magazine and feel my jaw clench. Sometimes I think about 19-year-old me crying in a stairwell, believing help was coming, and I feel grief so sharp it takes my breath away. But I also look at my life, my home, my job, the peace in my chest that I didn't think I'd ever earn, and I feel something steadier than anger. I feel ownership. They spent what they set aside for me. They can't unspend it. They can't rewrite it without lying. But they don't get to spend the rest of my life, too.